What's up everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be doing an in-depth teardown on a Wii Mini. This is going to be the first of a several video long series of in-depth teardowns of different consoles. And I decided to start this series because there were some consoles that I realized that there aren't very many good teardown videos of. And so I wanted to contribute what I could there. But I also know that some of you guys watching my videos will want to try some of these repairs yourself. And so I think that if I have good teardown videos for each console, then I can point you guys to those videos and it'll help you be able to repair your own consoles. So I hope that you guys will look forward to more videos to come from this series. And today we're looking at the Wii Mini, which is the model RVL-201. And this is an interesting console because it's essentially the stripped down model of the Family Edition Wii, and they took away the internet functionality as well as the SD card slot, and they also took out the automatic disk drive and exchanged it for this flip-top style. Overall, I would say that the original Wii is pretty easy to take apart itself, but this one being a more basic version of that, it's an extremely simple console to take apart. So the first thing that we're going to do is take out these two visible screws on the bottom of the console. And iFixit says that they are number 0, but I actually found that my 00 Phillips bit worked better on these. So starting out, just take out the one in the bottom right corner, and the other one in the bottom left corner. And now that we've got those taken out, we can take a look at them. For future reference, these are silver in color, and they are about 6 millimeters in length. Now we can spin the console over to the right side, so we can remove the CMOS battery. This particular screw holding the tray in place is also a Phillips 00. And once you've got it unscrewed, this tray just slides out. And if you ever need to replace this battery, which you won't run into super often, but you may occasionally, it is a CR2032. Next, we're going to need to remove 2 of the rubber feet. So go ahead and spin the console around to the back side now, and we're going to be removing the 2 at the rear. Normally you would want to use a plastic spudger for something like this, but if you don't have one like me, because mine broke, as long as you are careful, a flathead bit like this will do. And don't worry about having to replace these, just set them to the side and they should stick back on later. Now we can change back to our Phillips 00 and remove the 2 screws that we just uncovered. If you get one that gets stuck like this, go ahead and take some tweezers or something to pull it out. You can also turn it upside down, but I usually don't use that method because I end up losing the screw. And to show you again for reference, next to the other 2 screws on the bottom, they are all the same size. They're silver, and they are about 6 millimeters in length. Now we're ready to flip the console back over, and we can go ahead and remove the top lid entirely. And this should be pretty easy to take out because there's not any tabs or anything holding it in place. Taking a look at the underside of this, there are no electronic components in the top part, just the mechanical parts that help the flip top flip up whenever you hit the button. And as you can see, mine has a dust bunny or a cobweb or something in it, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. The other thing you may want to do while you're in here is go ahead and dust off the back side of this fan cover right here. Dust tends to collect there, so you may see how dirty yours is and if it needs cleaned. But we're done with this for now, so go ahead and set it to the side. Now for the internals, the first thing we're going to do is take this fan out, and we're going to start by unplugging this 2-wire connector here from the board. And now we can remove the 2 screws holding it in place. These screws in particular are a Phillips 0. And now that we've got it loose, we can go ahead and pull up to remove it. And then we can get a better look at the fan and the screws. Now I've worked on quite a few Wiis at this point, all different kinds, and from what I've noticed, the place where dust gathers the most is typically the fan, but this one actually doesn't look too bad. And so now we can take a closer look at these screws. As I said, they are a Phillips number 0, and they are black in color and about 6 millimeters in length. And for comparison here, they are the same length as the silver screws we took out of the outside of the console earlier. Next, we're going to take this small board out. Start by unplugging this 2-wire cable. And now we're going to unplug this ribbon cable. Just pull straight out with a pair of tweezers or something. Just be careful not to damage the ribbon cable in the process. In case you're curious what this board is for, this white button here is for the power button. And then these 2 levers right here are to tell whenever the lid for the disc tray is closed. That way it knows when to spin the disc. The last 2 things holding this board in place are 2 Phillips 0 screws. We're going to start with this one on the top right. And don't go dropping it like I did, otherwise you might not be able to find it. And then the final one is down here in the lower left corner. Now that I finally found the one that I dropped, I can show you guys a size comparison. These are black in color, and they are about 4 millimeters in length. And as I said earlier, they are Phillips 0. And now we can remove it. It's not a very big board, but it is nice that it's separate from the main board. In case you were ever having an issue with one of the sensors or the power button, you could just replace the small board instead of having to replace the large one. So next we're going to take out all of the visible screws, and unfortunately I took some of these out in the wrong order. I was trying to group them by size and similarities. However, there are 2 screw types that I take out in this section. All of these screws are Phillips 0. They are all silver in color. However, the 3 screws that are holding in the disk drive, as well as the 3 screws holding in the black plastic piece underneath of the disk drive, they are all about 6 millimeters in length, while all the others that I take out that are holding the motherboard and the heatsink in place are about 5 millimeters in length. So whenever you're taking them out and putting it back together, just try to pay mind to that. So this one holding in the black piece at the bottom is a 6 millimeter. The one at the top also holding in the black piece is a 6 millimeter. This screw in the left middle underneath where the fan sits is one of the 5 millimeters. These 2 screws near the top left corner are some of the 5 millimeters. And just a warning on this one, I found it a little bit tricky to get out just because it was wedged between the 2 ports. But if you're having trouble getting it out like I was, just use like a pair of tweezers or something. These 2 here that sit at the front, kind of a little bit underneath of the disk drive, they should also be 6 millimeters. And these are actually a little bit hard to see, so you might have to tip the console forward like I did a minute ago, just to be able to get on them with the screwdriver. Now the last 3 that we're going to take out for now are the ones that are holding the disc tray in place. There's one at the top here and 2 on the bottom, and these are the 6 millimeters. Now we can take the actual disk drive out itself, and with this there's not exactly one spot that's best to hold it at, just kind of wherever you can get a hold of good. But once you get a good grip on it, just go ahead and pull straight up, and the whole assembly pops up at once. You've got the actual disk drive part, the laser, the metal bracket, and the board. Now the only connection point between the disk drive board and the actual console motherboard is this little Lego style connector right here. And it connects on the actual console board right here. Now next we're going to be removing this plastic bracket, and this part is actually a little tricky. You want to pinch it in these 2 spots right here, and you kind of just want to move it around until it pops loose, and then you can push it forward and it'll come up. Next we're going to be removing the metal shield / heatsink for the motherboard. All of the screws left holding this in place are Phillips number 0. They are all 5 millimeters in length and silver in color. We've got this screw in the bottom right corner. There's one in the bottom middle. Then one at the bottom left. Then we've got one here in the middle left. And one pretty much directly in the middle. And I'll lift this up a second so you can see the 3 at the top because they're kind of hard to see. We've got one in the top right corner, then one at the top middle, and then one in the left top corner. And once you get all those screws removed, we should just be able to pull the top heatsink right off. And once that's out of the way, we can just lift the motherboard straight up as well. And this little guy here is the wireless chip. So that's pretty much it for the teardown side of things. This should allow you guys to do whatever you would need to within this console. And it's really not a very complex system. It's pretty easy to take apart overall. But now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to put this thing back together. One last thing real quick though, this bottom metal tray does come out if for some reason you would need to remove it. But I can't think of very many use cases where you would need to, other than for cleaning purposes, I suppose. And as you can see, mine definitely needs cleaned, so I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. And that looks much better. So now we can go ahead and take this bottom metal tray and put it back in place. And now we can take our motherboard and set it on top. Just make sure you get all the screw holes lined up and everything, since this is the motherboard. It does have fragile components, so make sure that you are very careful with it. Next, we can put the heatsink shield back on, and make sure this is oriented correctly as well, and make sure the thermal paste that's on there lines up properly with the chips. Now we can put our 5mm Phillips number 0 silver screws back in place, with one in the top left corner here, one in the top middle, one in the top right corner, one in the middle left, one in the bottom left, one in the direct center, one in the bottom center, one in the bottom right, this one that's just a little bit up and to the left of the bottom right corner, one in the middle right, and this last one here goes just above the bottom right. Next, we're going to slide the black plastic cover back over this board. Make sure you've got it oriented correctly, just like I've got it here. Now you may have to slide it around a little bit, just like I'm doing, but you'll feel it kind of sit in place. And then once you feel like it's in a good spot, you just slide it back, and you will physically feel and hear it click into place. Now we can put our Phillips number 0 6mm silver screws back into place, with one here in the bottom left corner, one in the top left corner, and then there's one here in the bottom right corner. And for the last screw, we're going to flip this console 180 degrees. And now that we've flipped it around, there is a screw that goes in the bottom left corner. Now we can put our disk drive back in place and make sure it is lined up properly, and then snap that Lego style connector back into place. Now we'll put our screws back in. These are the 6mm Phillips number 0 silver screws. And there's one that goes in up at the top here. And then we'll flip it back around, and there are two that go on the other side of the disk drive. Next, we can put our small board back in, and it's got these tiny little pins that help you line it up, so it's pretty easy to get back in place right. And the two screws that go back in this are the black Phillips number 0 4mm screws, with one in the top right corner, and then one in the bottom left corner. And now we will plug in our 2-wire connector back into place. And then next we'll go ahead and make sure this ribbon cable is seated into place. And you'll know if it's all the way in if you see the black strip on it touching the connector on the board. Next, we're going to put our fan back in. And the easiest way to tell if you're putting this in the right way is to make sure that the screw holes line up. If they don't line up, then you've probably got it in backwards. Now we're going to put in our two Phillips number 0 6mm black screws, one on the right side and one on the left side. And now we can plug the 2-wire fan cable back in place too. If it's not going in the one way, do not force it in because you'll break the pins. It should go in pretty easily, so just be careful when you're plugging it back in. Now, one last thing I'm going to do here before I put the top cover back on is I'm going to tuck this power board wire underneath of it and then push it back down into the grooves here. That way it's out of the way. And now we can put our top cover back on. Once you've got it lined up, go ahead and flip the console back over so we can screw it back into place. And we'll start with the two hidden screws that are Phillips number 0, 6mm, silver. And one goes in the top right corner here, and the other one goes in the top left corner. Now go ahead and rotate the console 180 degrees, so that way they're closest to you, and then we'll go ahead and put the rubber feet back on. Now go ahead and rotate it back the other way 180 degrees, and we'll get the last two screws put in. And these screws are also the silver Phillips number 0, 6mm. And one goes in the bottom right corner, and the other one goes in the bottom left corner. Now the very last thing that we have to do is to put the battery cover / tray back into place. So go ahead and slide it back in, taking care not to dislodge the battery from the tray, and then screw it back in with a Phillips 00. And with that, you have successfully disassembled and reassembled a Wii Mini. This is definitely an odd console, but it's much simpler than the original Wii. This particular one is from my childhood. I remember we got this one whenever the disk drive went out on our first Wii. My dad attempted to fix it and was not able to, so he ended up buying this for us. But I hope that this video has been helpful to you guys. I tried my absolute hardest to keep it as detailed as I possibly could. This is a new video series that I will be continuing in the future. Next month for June, I actually have a special video that involves modding a GameCube. So keep an eye out for that one. But after that video, we should be continuing this series of in-depth teardowns of different consoles. If this helped you, please give a like. If you have any criticisms for the future videos that I make for the in-depth teardowns, please let me know. I want to try to make these as good as I possibly can. And one last thing I'm going to throw in here real quick. I created a coffee page for the channel. There's no pressure whatsoever, but if anybody's interested in directly contributing and supporting future videos on this channel and future projects, then you can go down to that link in the description, or it's at the top of my channel page, and you can leave a tip there and it'll go towards funding this channel going forward. And again, no pressure whatsoever. It's just there for anybody that is interested in supporting and wants to do it that way. And if you want to show your support but don't want to leave a tip or can't leave a tip, that's totally fine. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.